or death. We gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beasts on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And you know how we already start this. So you tuned in to the Urban Conservative, and I'm presenting Disenfranchised Voter. Today I'll be talking about conflicts, closures, and community oversight. Who really benefits? But before we get into all that, I have Don Tripp, and I'll be right back right after this.
Yeah. Sometimes I color outside the lines. Yeah. Start tripping and get lost in this mind of mine. Yeah. Fuck it. Sometimes I can't stay inside the lines. No matter what I go through, I find time to grind. Cause if I take a day off, then we fall behind. And if the bill's late, it's nobody's fault but mine. All this weight I carry, I find it hard to smile. And when they turn their backs, I ain't at all surprised. I knew they wasn't who they claim, I saw all the signs. I still see the picture clear through my watery eyes. The more I try to hold it in, the harder I cry. I keep making new mistakes, the harder I try. I would probably choke to death if I swallowed my pride. No matter what I endure, I gotta survive. Cause when the blood's in the water, the sharks will arrive. Yeah. Start tripping and get lost in this mind of mine. Yeah. Sometimes I color outside the lines. I get impatient as I wait for the stars to align. Sometimes I lose myself and then become harder to find. Then I get lost and think whatever I find is mine. And when I'm hurt, I think whoever I find's a diamond. Forgetting who they really are until time reminds me why I made the decision to leave them all behind me. If life's a movie, gotta stop trying to pause and rewind it. Cause this might be the kind of movie the stars can die in. Start tripping and get lost in this mind of mine. Yeah. Sometimes I color outside the lines. All my pictures ain't picture perfect. At times I pour my love into people who didn't deserve it. I gave my time after time, and it wasn't worth it. I gave you my all so you can make me feel worthless. But chose on you. You built the wall in my path, and then I broke on through. And now you wanna rekindle shit, I'm like, no, can do. No, I can't chop it up with you, no, I don't know kung fu. Felt like your soul was a part of me, like an arm or a leg. I had to cut that shit out so the disease won't spread. I still feel it sometimes, they call that phantom limb. But no matter what, you'll never connect it again. I'm on a long journey, as I navigate without a map. Had to mark the trees along the way so I don't circle back. My daughter drew a picture for me, she not even 5. She said it's so hard to stay inside the lines. I said, baby, that's fine. All you can do is try. When you do what's in your heart, it come out perfect every time. Long live Pip.
That was Don Tribb, Outside the Lines. I want to talk about, so I really got something for y'all today, and I really want to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to show this video, and he's talking about how Minneapolis funds nonprofit fraud scandals, and Biden gave them our tax dollars. I found this interesting, so I kind of want to play it a little bit this morning. It's about 16 minutes long, and just see what your opinion is, and I'll talk a little bit afterwards.
Raising awareness about various forms of abuse, holding a large walk today to bring the community together. Our Pafua Yang has the message from organizers on what was a chilly October morning.
Dozens of people are walking together in Minneapolis today to show support for those affected by domestic violence, bullying, and breast cancer. Agape Oasis, a nonprofit, says they're raising funds to address these issues. Not only do they say that 1 in every 5 students report bullying, but about 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. They also say that 1 in 4 women are impacted by domestic violence, and 1 in 15 children experience or are exposed to domestic violence in their life. Violence Free Minnesota reports that last year, at least 20 women and 1 man died from an intimate partner violence. That same year, at least 3 bystanders or interveners died. Agape Oasis says just in the first 2 quarters this year, they have served 700 people impacted by domestic violence, sexual assault, and bullying prevention. The organization—
They have served how many people to do what? What do they do for them?
People impacted by domestic violence. Quarters this year, they have served 700 people impacted by domestic violence, sexual assault, and bullying prevention. The organization said they have a goal to unmask abuse, but there needs to be more resources to support people impacted. A lot of people—
Oh, okay. They need more resources, guys. Where do we hear that all the time? Send me the money now. That group, Agape Oasis or whatever, I was looking into them and I found an article, and this had came out a month before the video you just saw. So a month before that little fundraiser. Minneapolis violence interrupter pushing back against Fed claims of blood ties. A recent federal court filing alleges that the Agape movement paid tens of thousands to active gang members, including a man out on bail after being charged with murder. This is that case we were hearing about yesterday when we were looking into this group, where they said it had been basically dismissed, or like I guess they just finished the case and nothing really came of it. Now these are these guys just kind of removing this stuff from the George Floyd Square, I guess. Doing something, right? They got the Timberlands. They out there working. The Agape movement, the Agape movement, a group of violence interrupters rooted in George Floyd Square, has made it a mission to tap ex-gang members to try to pry young men from blood gangs that have preyed on South Minneapolis. But federal prosecutors are now claiming that active leaders from the same gang, one of several being targeted in a broad ongoing crackdown, helped start the very community group meant to counter it. This is why, listen, when we were just talking about this yesterday, I did not do a deep dive into it. It just sounded to me like what they were doing is they're using our taxpayer dollars to fund these groups to make sure these groups can essentially help these criminals escape being arrested, right? And look, now that we're hearing this is stuff that came out in 2024, so a year ago.
It's the final game, folks. This one wins the series.
Struck out with the cheap seats? Important things aren't worth compromising. At Farmers, we offer both quality insurance and great savings. Here, take mine.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
We can already see it. We can already see it because we know what kind of scams are going on in Minneapolis, right? They are also accusing Agape of paying tens of thousands of dollars from a city of Minneapolis contract to multiple active blood members, including one man since convinced of murder for a 2020 killing and now on the eve of trial of federal racketeering charges. Though led and co-founded by former gang members, Agape's leadership swiftly rejected any claim that active blood leaders were among those responsible for launching the group amid the uprising over Floyd's murder by Minneapolis police officers 4 years ago. No member of Agape is an active gang member, period, said Reginald Ferguson, co-founder and executive director of the Agape movement, in an interview with Star Tribune. You just can't do that, is what he said. Okay. Assistant U.S. Attorney Esther Soria, whatever, wrote in the filing that a cooperating defendant will testify that members, associates, and leaders of the Bloods helped from Agape movement, citing bank and check records. So they have evidence of it, right? Added that Agape was paid tens of thousands of dollars to multiple members of the Minneapolis Bloods with money from a contract from the city of Minneapolis. Now, I was looking into the contracts, right, and trying to figure out, first of all, where it all came from. So you look at it here in 2021, Joe Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act. Again, $1.9 trillion supposed to be going to COVID, right? Signed by Biden. Minneapolis received $271 million. The city, Minneapolis, received $271 million of funds. Now, the city officials earmarked this specifically for violent prevention, including the interrupters. This is money that's supposed to, look, even ChatGPT puts it right here. This is federal tax money meant for COVID recovery, repurposing to fund street outreach. It was supposed to be for COVID recovery, and the Democrats said, yeah, we can use this to defund the police and create our social programs. They stole our money. It's supposed to be for COVID, and they stole our money to push this defund the police bullshit, right? And then, of course, how did the money get separated, right? City Hall is the gatekeeper. Money is funneled into the City of Minneapolis Office of Violence Prevention. So there's an office specifically for this, now called the Department of Neighborhood Safety. Sounds real nice and cute, right? Oh, that's great. We need to fund that. It sounds great. Neighborhood safety. Of course we need that. This office manages contracts and decides which community groups get paid. Politicians, Mayor Frey, City Council approve or fast track these contracts, all right? Now, we already know Mayor Frey, he's an idiot. City Council is a bunch of zesty people and a bunch of incompetent morons. We already seen that plenty of times. Now, this is where it gets juicy, right? This is where the money gets all split up. Let me zoom in so you guys can see this nice and clear. The city signs multi-$100,000 contracts with local non-profits, our favorite, right? Examples, Agape Movement was given $359,000 of emergency contract in 2021, and then later was given $275,000 in later contracts. Now, this is the one where they just said they were fundraising over here, going on this nice, cute little walk so they can raise more money because they need more resources, even though they only helped 700 people out. They helped 700 people out and they blew through this amount of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? We got these other groups, A Mother's Love, $671,000. Then that became $708,000 in 2025. Touch Outreach, almost $1 million in 2025. Metro Youth Diversion, $708,000. Mad Dads, $619,000. Salem Inc., $643,000. Sabathani and Restoration Inc. also funded. I don't know what, I guess they got whatever's left over. This money is just flying around. These are our federal tax dollars, and the city is just throwing this money at these nonprofits. What do any of these nonprofits even do? What does Touch Outreach do? What is a mother? And we got a new one that just dropped today. Well, it didn't drop today, but they're talking about they're about to get more funding for it. And I'll show you that video here in just a second. Now we already know what these groups pretend to do, right? They hire violence interrupters, often people with gang ties or criminal pasts, to de-escalate conflicts. They patrol neighborhoods. And look, some of you guys were in the comment section of my video from today and yesterday. Y'all were saying that y'all work for City of Minneapolis and y'all have never seen these people out of the streets before. Yeah, they go out there for photo ops and that's it, right? They just get out there, collect money, and then they go out and do gang shit. Agape accused its federal court filings, of course. Why would they admit to it? And yeah, Fox 9 investigations found missing receipts and double billing by contractors. So there's just fraud all over the place, man. This is money we haven't even investigated. This is groups that we have never even talked about, knew what was going on. We haven't covered any of this. This is all separate from the Medicaid and Medicare fraud scandals that we've seen. All that equals $1 billion. All this is new. Millions of dollars just flying out the window. And then we got a new one today, or at least they're talking about it today. This video dropped earlier today of a new program. How much money do they need? And yes, guys, please hit the like button.
To share as the Metro Transit Police Chief says crime is down.
The Met Council is committing tens of millions of dollars.
Hold on, he said what now? Oh my God, why does it keep freezing?
Crime right now. Crime is dramatically down right now.
There we go. I don't know why that video clips keeps freezing.
Into a safety program we found many riders don't even cooperate with. For years now, we've been reporting on efforts to decrease crime on Metro Transit buses.
You're going to need a big board. You're going to need a big dry erase board, all right?
And light rail trains.
And this Sunday night, Vikings fans will be climbing on board for the first home game at US Bank Stadium. And that's where Ben Henry is live tonight with how they're preparing for that big spike in riders. Ben?
Kevin and Lindsay, in each of the last two seasons, more than 100,000 rides were connected to home games here in downtown Minneapolis. Less than a week until the home opener, and we have updated crime data for trains and buses. Also, information on expanding a program aimed at improving safety. Riders we spoke with say train safety is trending the right way.
I see more police, transit police and city police on the train in the mornings.
How do you feel on the train these days?
I feel very safe. You know, a lot of have been cleaned up.
Oh yeah, I feel safe.
A lot of problems like I used to see. People sleeping and smoking on the train.
Now, Metro Transit is preparing for a surge in riders as tens of thousands of Minnesota Vikings fans turn to buses and light rail. Should they feel safe hopping on?
They should feel safe.
In their most recent update, Metro Transit police report major crime is up from the last quarter, but 13% lower than a year ago.
Certainly still work to do. We understand that, but we want to make sure that people know that we are definitely addressing issues on the system.
One of those ways, Interim Chief Joe Dotseth says, is with the Transit Rider Investment Program, or TRIP. TRIP agents help riders make sure rules are followed and check for tickets. Agents currently work at 9 locations, but that's set to jump to 16 as the Met Council recently approved nearly $57.5 million to expand the service.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Where's this money coming from?
Recently approved nearly $57.5 million to expand.
Oh, Jesus. Y'all already have budget deficits. What are we talking about? And what do they do to fix the budget deficit? They took away double pay for police that are working overtime. Police that are understaffed, overworked, and now they remove their extra pay from them to fix the budget. But now you want to spend $57.5 million on this little program?
Expand the service.
Having the TRIP agents out there and supplemental security has been a really big deal for us.
Metro Transit Fair Enforcement.
Look, these are the guys right here. All they do is come in and they basically say, Do y'all understand what's happening here? They're not really stopping crime. They're moving crime. They're getting ahead of it before the police can actually go out there. Crime isn't down. It's just being protected. The stats are not being really skewed. They're stopping the police from actually going out there and doing their job.
Earlier this year, 5 investigates found many riders not cooperating with agents, often refusing to share their information when given a citation. But Seth standing by their partners as they prepare for the Purple Pride hopefuls to fill their buses and trains.
I think that is a bigger impact than just the citations, because people can go, even giving directions, all these simple things, and having that official presence out there, that's a big deal, and it's certainly helping our riders feel better about the system.
Well, the Met Council approved the $57.5 million for expanding the TRIP program. The contract is still being finalized. One final note, another step the Metro Transit Police Department is taking is bringing back their police beats, assigning officers to specific locations for them to get more used to specific riders even, and just the area. Live in Minneapolis, Ben Henry.
So this is what they've been doing, man. They're replacing the police with these social programs, these... Does it work? I don't know. It doesn't look like it works. It just looks like they're moving the crime away from the police, or they're putting people in harm's way in order to stop police from actually doing their job. This is how, and they started doing this stuff right during COVID. They used the COVID funds, money that was supposed to go to helping keep your your economy going in your state, and what a massive scam, man. When you start to look at everything, like the bigger picture, and you zoom out a little bit and look how they used George Floyd, how they used the COVID scandal, how they used everything, right, in order to push these socialist agendas, these get rid of the police and put social workers in place.
Right.
They would not have been able to do this if it was not for COVID. They wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for George Floyd and getting the Democrats to all of a sudden turn on their own police officers. It's pretty crazy, man. It is pretty crazy. And now you're starting to see the outcomes of it all, right? The scams, the fraud. Now we're seeing, crime is down 30%.
You know, I'm going to cut it off there because he does have a point, but I do want to make it known that Agape Oasis and then the Agape Movement are two different organizations that have different leadership, different missions, statements, visions, all that. So it is two different. One is focused on, in North Minneapolis, Agape Oasis is more about domestic violence and helping out, people from that community over North Minneapolis. And Agape Movement is more about, ex-gangbangers and supposed to be ex-gangbangers, but that's the one that has mostly contracted with the city. And there has been, things that came out in court documents and court, testimony that people have been paid by Agape. I'm not saying that it came directly from the city of Minneapolis or the state of Minnesota, but the blood is on city council's hands. I want to go to, I know people maybe haven't been noticing in Minneapolis or Minnesota or whatever, but right now there is a big spotlight on the DFL, not only with Omar Fateh, but also with this lady named Cindy Martin. A lot of people maybe don't know is that their leadership for their chair has actually killed a kid, a teenager, and a hit and run. And I want to talk about that for a minute. Hold on, because this is it, and I want people to see this because her name is Cindy Martin. Now, there's a lot going on in the Minneapolis DFL. People are feeling disenfranchised in that little movement, that little party. But you're also seeing that what is going on with the federal administration. You're seeing that come out in some DFL caucuses. You're seeing that really big in Minneapolis, where you're seeing people that transgendered are being misgendered or they're being degendered. And that's just like with the transgender that's in Shakopee, Minnesota, in the prison, and been assaulting, I don't even understand a lot of that, because I'm just going to leave it at that, because I don't know how your name is Nathan, but you're in a woman's prison. So I'm going to get to Cindy Martin.
Well, a Grand Rapids woman is charged with 1 count of criminal vehicular homicide in connection with the death of a man who was walking on an Itasca County highway in July. 65-year-old Cynthia Arlene Martin was charged Tuesday in Itasca County Court with criminal vehicular homicide. Driver who causes collision leaves scene. Martin is currently the chair for the 8th Congressional District DFL and the vice chair for the Itasca County DFL. She also previously served as chair for the Itasca County DFL. According to the criminal complaint in the case, authorities believe Martin was driving west on Highway 169 near Nashwauk when she struck 19-year-old Carter Haithcock of Goodland. Around 6 a.m. the next day, Martin called 911 to report she may have been involved in an accident near Nashwauk, and later told law enforcement she thought she may have hit an owl or turkey. Investigators found extensive damage to the front of Martin's vehicle, and a piece of fabric was in the hood that was consistent with the sweatshirt worn by Haithcock. They also found surveillance video from a gas station that showed a vehicle similar to the one she was driving that pulled over at the location Haithcock was hit, and near the time they believe the collision occurred. The next hearing in the case is scheduled for December 26th.
Lakeland News. People should really pay attention to that, because if you see what is going on with the DFL, and their people have been people that I would say that are DFL, they're starting to realize that everything isn't kosher, everything isn't good, right? So quite the choice for Richard Kelbrom to include the endorsement of the horrible Cynthia Martin, who just killed a teenager in a hit and run. Like, holy shit, what are you thinking? This shows poor judgment for him to even think that was a good endorsement. I just want people to see, like, this shit is crazy. Like, you have a woman, Siri Everett's on here too. That's crazy. I didn't see her name. Oh, I didn't see Siri's name. That's kind of crazy because she's on there. That's Siri Everett right there. I don't know the rest of these people. I think that's Cynthia Martin, whatever, CD8. But that just shows you that what is the DFL really about? What is the DFL? They're starting to eat their own. You know, you have people that are considered, or I shouldn't say considered or whatever, but they see themselves as man being a woman, but I wonder if I can get to her page, because people should really see the comments. I mean, this shit it's you see them, even because last night they had it wasn't just Democratic, it was all the mayors who are running for Minneapolis, and they had this one guy who he wanted to be called candidate nobody, and it was really, really awkward. It was really weird for a while. I gotta say, during the whole thing, because watching the video and seeing how he acted and seeing that, I'm not saying that he wasn't a druggie or anything like that, but it really did make you wonder, like, what the fuck is Buddy up to? Because he was on some shit. Yeah, this shit's crazy. I mean, they really, really, really do. And I will say like this, the Minneapolis DFL is really fucked up right now. And it's really, so I looked at this person's, it's a transgender man, loud, annoying on the internet, democratic socialist, secretly a crow, views are mine and not reflective of my employer. Let me watch this. So, where is the post. The diagram of the people who overturned the Minneapolis endorsement and the people who closed ranks to defend their friend who killed someone is a damn circle. Like, people got to really, really make that two newly elected officers of the feminist caucus who have killed people recently, and killing someone is fine as long as they're my friend. Damn, that's crazy. There's a lot of shit. Oh, here it goes. So, also still incredible angry about last night. Just thinking about how fucking awful my friends were treated makes me want to cry. Now, there was a lot that went on last night in Minneapolis when it came to the feminist caucus. They had that. I guess people were being misgendered. I don't even get the whole pronoun thing. I really don't care anymore. I see people as male and female. You can be who you want to be. Please correct me if I end up, doing wrong or whatever. But that doesn't mean that because I mislabel you or I mispronounce what you are, that doesn't mean that I hate you or I want to see something happen to you. This means that once we know better, we do better. And I think people do finally get that as we go along. So here we have our first story today. And this was about, this came out last night while Omar Fateh was at the Minneapolis Mayor Forum. And I really want to get into this just for a minute and play this for a little bit and just show you what they uncovered.
Tonight, new questions about politics, ethics, and a candidate for Minneapolis mayor. A KARE 11 investigation into Minnesota's troubled housing stabilization program, already exposed for widespread fraud, now reveals an unexpected connection to candidate and state Senator Omar Fateh. Lou Ragus is here now with details. Lou?
And Julie, right up front, I want to be clear. We found no evidence of billing fraud here. However, we did discover something raising what a legal expert labels serious ethical concerns. Senator Omar Fateh's wife was a listed owner of a housing stabilization company, even as the senator and current Minneapolis mayoral candidate himself was pushing legislation to fast-track client approvals for the taxpayer-funded program.
Senator Fateh, Senate File 2741.
A bill that will address a critical delay in access to housing stabilization services, also known as HSS.
It's March 24th, 2025, and Senator Omar Fateh is the sole author of a bill he says will speed up access for people to be approved for HSS, a Medicaid-funded program to help the elderly and disabled find and maintain housing.
HSS is a lifeline.
A lifeline moving too slow, the senator says, because at DHS there was a months-long enrollment backlog as the agency was overwhelmed by the number of people being signed up.
Delays that are putting people at risk of eviction, extended homelessness, and service lapses.
What was not known at the time was that Senator Fateh had an undisclosed tie to the HSS industry.
Does this raise any red flags?
It raises lots of red flags.
Political science professor David Schultz has taught ethics for 25 years. He says what raises red flags is that Senator Fateh's wife, Keltoum Mohammed, was a founder and owner of Community Development Services, LLC, an HSS company.
This is a situation where I think almost anybody schooled in, government ethics 101 would know that you can't introduce legislation that benefits yourself.
Fateh's campaign staff says his wife no longer owned the company, which had not started billing Medicaid when he introduced the legislation. They point to this handwritten note in Secretary of State records dated April of 2024 that states Keltoum Mohammed is no longer associated with the company. However, a Secretary of State spokesperson tells KARE 11 this document does not remove someone from a company. And more than a year later, just 4 days after KARE 11's investigation exposed allegations of widespread fraud in the HSS program, this record, listing the senator's wife as a current owner of Community Development Services, LLC, was filed with DHS. The record, electronically signed by her and dated May 5th, 2025, transferred full ownership of the HSS company to her business partner, meaning she still was, on paper at least, officially an owner when her husband introduced that bill.
That's pretty powerful evidence that somebody still is involved with an organization.
Senator Fateh declined KARE 11's interview request and has not directly answered questions. However, he posted to social media last week criticizing the Star Tribune, who appears to have contacted him researching the same story, writing, "It's about manufacturing a scandal when there is none," and insinuates wrongdoing when it's clear there was none.
So again, the company founded by the senator's wife never billed Medicaid, and we found no indication of fraud by her or the business. Senator Fateh's bill to fast-track access to the HSS program did not pass, as lawmakers instead rushed to push through reform measures in the wake of KARE 11's investigation. And ultimately, DHS announced plans last month to terminate the HSS program due to out-of-control fraud. One more thing to mention, Julie, this afternoon, Senator Fateh's campaign forwarded me a statement from him that addressed his defense of that bill and what he said it would have done if it was passed. We posted that on KARE11.com.
But it's in hindsight now, looking back and knowing that if there was a backlog, so much of that was fraudulent, from $2 million budget to a $100 million budget. So bad they actually shut the program down. You know, it's the story is fraught, but to be clear, nothing illegal is being alleged in the story.
And especially the reason for that is because the company did not receive any money. Fateh did not have to legally disclose a spouse's business in official filings. However, as David Schultz put it, it's an ethics problem by any definition across the country that a lawmaker cannot introduce legislation that would benefit himself.
You know, that goes back to the same thing with Bobby Joe Champion, another DFLer. I think people really need to look at that and look at that closely and see if your representative or your congressman are doing wrong. I'm not saying that there's got to be some kind of connection or some kind of too much of this is starting to become a problem, and it seems like only the media are going at one certain population of people instead of going at everybody, because we have lawmakers who are allowing this to happen, because that in Minnesota kickbacks are legal. So I want to talk about, again, we're going back to fraud. They're investigating potential fraud, and the lawmakers this is my thing. Lawmakers want to react, but they got to know deep down inside that people that they know were a part of this shit. People that had probably came to them as constituents or came to them as people who wanted help, but it was only to be fraudulent against the state of Minnesota and the taxpayers, because that's where that money came from. That was money that was given extra during COVID to fight the pandemic, while, you know, everything was shut down. You know, you had businesses, you had if you weren't somebody that worked for, or what is that? They called them kind of employees. It was like you had to go to, you know, one of those employees that had to go to work because those were essential employees. You know what I'm saying? So I want to talk about the fraud a little bit. And here goes KSTP.
Tonight, after a Minneapolis man told us his care provider wasn't helping him as reported, and he was concerned how the state was being billed.
Yeah, the program he's part of is under the oversight of the Department of Human Services. Eric Shalou has been talking to lawmakers about what he found.
The Integrated Community Supports, or ICS program, helps more than 1,000 vulnerable Minnesotans daily with a variety of living services. We spoke with one man who filed complaints against his care provider, and he showed us a letter from DHS that mentioned a, quote, fraud review about his allegations. A top House leader says the ICS program will be looked into by an oversight committee.
Thankfully, you guys have been digging into this in order to bring things to light.
That's Representative Walter Hudson of the House Fraud and Oversight Committee reacting to our story from Monday night.
I'm physically hurting, but I'm sharp mentally.
We shared the story of Kane Pence, who relies on assistance from the Minnesota Department of Human Services ICS program for daily care and housing needs.
And I would say, hey, I need help with these things. Do it yourself. I need help with groceries. Take a lift. Well, I can take a lift, but it's pretty hard when I have my cane in one hand and trying to...
Last year, Pence alleges his provider wasn't giving him the full care that he was entitled to through ICS. We learned Minnesota's Department of Human Services Inspector General investigated his allegations into care through the taxpayer-funded program. Since we first reached out to DHS, we found this new correction order. DHS alleges the care company paid to help Pence and others violated Minnesota statutes. In Pence's case, investigators wrote the license holder did not provide services as assigned in the support plan. The provider strongly disputes Pence's allegations. The state gave them time to contest their findings. Meanwhile, we learned the House committee members have flagged the ICS program for a deeper look into oversight.
It's absolutely essential that you have an infrastructure in place to ensure that they're actually getting the services that they are due. All of these questions need to be delved into, and we need to find out what's going on.
DFL Representative Dave Pinto, who also sits on the committee, told me that after watching our story, he feels DHS is taking the allegations seriously with an investigation. We know later this month, the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee will hold their next meeting. We will be there and let you know what plays out. In the newsroom, Eric Schilling, 5 Eyewitness.
That is interesting because there is a lot of fraud in programs that are supposed to help people that are homeless, people that have autism, daycares. There's been a lot of fraud. And I really do feel like that's stuff that we need to talk about as a community. And I think that is something that we can't ignore. Something that we can't look at differently because, yes, it is happening. And that is something that we need to really that's something that we really need to talk about it as a community, as a state, as Minnesota. So I want to get into last night. I didn't watch it, but Rochester Public Schools proposed about closing 3 school buildings. Now, you're probably like, wait, what? What is Rochester doing? Well, people need to pay attention. People need to understand what is going on and see it for what it really is and see that it's people are taking advantage of a system that is supposed to be for the people. So let's get into this KTTC
News at 10.
Rochester Public Schools proposing the closure of 3 school buildings. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Olivia Pronzinski. Brock is on assignment. Tonight, board members announcing the proposals. Our Ryder Blair joins us live in the studio. Ryder, which 3 schools does the board want to close?
Olivia, the board proposes to close Friedel Middle School, the former Mighty Oaks Early Learning Building, and the vacant Skyline School Building. Although the school's houses could no longer be a part of the district, the programs in them will find a new home, with one already in its new location.
Educationally ambitious but financially conservative.
Rochester Public Schools Superintendent Kent Pickell says Mighty Oaks was in a tough location. Friedel needs about $14 million in repairs, and the Skyline building is not structurally sound.
The old Skyline School we've had sitting empty since 1976, and I said, why do let's not, let's sell it. Let's, take the dollars we can get from the sale and put it into kids' education.
All 3 buildings are closing for 2 common reasons: declining enrollment and expense reductions of roughly $13 million next school year. Pickell makes it clear the closures won't mean a cancellation of programs, but is rather a financially conservative move.
If we needed the space, we'd keep it and upgrade it. But because we think we can be efficient and find other places for that programming, I thought it was the right time to recommend that we make these changes.
Mighty Oaks building lead Melissa Nelson says the preschool made the move from its old building into the former Pinewood Elementary building over the summer.
We are open now. We are in our 2nd week of preschool and having our preschoolers back with us, and it is amazing.
Nelson says with a larger building in a neighborhood with a new playground and more green space, the school's enrollment of about 100 students has trended upwards since the move.
And that's what we're really excited about, are all the new opportunities that we're going to have in a larger space. Being able to bring more enrichment opportunities for students and families that are within our neighborhood and to the students that we already have in our program.
No public comments were made tonight on the closures. The board is still deciding where to move Friedel's 2 programs, and a final vote on all 3 buildings is set for September 23rd, with probable sales to follow. Live in the studio, Ryder Blair, KTTC News.
I think that's something that people should pay attention to. That is something that is could affect your community a lot. It doesn't matter if you're in the Friedel area. It doesn't matter if you're in the Mighty Oaks. It doesn't matter if you're in, forget the other school they were closing. Skyline. I think that was already been closed. So that is, to me, is something that you really, really, really need to pay attention to. So I want to get into, if a lot of people maybe don't know, is that Minneapolis City Council member, Ward 5, has been in Harvard doing a fellowship. And that is something that I want to get into because people are having a debate, a dialogue about should our politicians be able to do these type of things, even though it can maybe better where they're going, at the end of their tunnel, their journey. But I do think that when you are elected to help the people, you shouldn't be going to do no fellowships or because, my thoughts be all over the place.
Group of people that has shied away from the debate on issues of the day. And today that was in full view as members were arguing over whether they should allow one of their council members, Jeremiah Ellison, to split his time between Minnesota, where he's on the Minneapolis Council, and Massachusetts, where he's taken a fellowship. Here's Sammy.
So meeting attendance record shows that Ellison has been absent from meetings since August 12th. 2 questions were raised today in the meeting, which he also did not go to. First, is it ethical for a council member to be away from the city they were elected to represent? And second, what happens to his position on committees when he's not there to vote?
In his final months as Ward 5 City Council member, Jeremiah Ellison decided to accept a Harvard School of Design fellowship. He is balancing that with his elected duties and traveling between Minneapolis and Cambridge.
Ellison is absent.
Ellison, who represents North Central Minneapolis, wasn't there during today's Committee of the Whole while his colleagues discussed his commitment. Records show the last meeting he was present was on August 12th.
Some people have suggested that it is an ethical concern, that he is collecting a paycheck from multiple sources.
Ellison won't be able to vote if he's not present. He makes a yearly salary of $110,000 as a council member and will get about a $58,000 stipend for the fellowship.
I believe the North Side deserves to be represented on these committees.
Ward 4 council member Latricia Vita says she should replace him so North Minneapolis can have some representation on committees Ellison can't attend.
I spoke with council member Ellison. He says he will be here Thursday to support me.
President Elliott Payne says that since Ellison continues to be involved, they should leave his position on committees alone, even though he can't vote. There's also other council members that want on those committees, like Katie Cashman.
I think the best course of action is to leave the committees as they are and let him have the expectation, which is my expectation, that he attends as many of them as possible, which is what his residents and what his colleagues deserve.
Now, in a statement, Ellison said his workload at City Hall remains full-time, despite the fact that there are meetings he physically can't attend or vote in. He also says the North Side will have full representation on the council at all times. His colleagues, forwarded this discussion to Thursday, where Ellison is expected to attend. Jana?
So he'll be there in person to answer their questions and get that feedback?
That is what his colleagues have said, that he will be there on Thursday for the full meeting, and it looks like most council members are expecting to vote on what happens next at that time as well.
And you point out he's not running for re-election, so this is just for the end of this term. Is there anything that the council, did they say anything dramatic like they could vote to expel him or anything like that?
They didn't bring up expulsion. They did bring up the fact that they may take away his seat from the committees. But for right now, it looks like they're leaning toward placing him or leaving his seat as is. And if he votes, he votes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And then that's way less paperwork for everyone to do.
All right, well,
Yeah, it always, I don't never get it. I don't never understand it. You know, a lot of people have different morals, values. And even when it comes down to ethics, we've seen that people can have their own opinions or think that it's a certain way. So I want to get into, you know, people are making it a big deal about what's going on in Chicago. And I want to show a video that Anton Daniels did, talking about what was actually happening in Chicago. And I want to talk about that a little bit. So here is Anton Daniels talking about what is going on in Chicago.
Guys, I'm on the ground at the Federal Plaza where you can see workers setting up this barricade here ahead of these demonstrations that are expected in front of the Federal Plaza here in Chicago. Guys, I'm gonna keep you updated as this unfolds.
Well, I guess the forecast in Chicago calls for snow. That's an awful lot of salt trucks. That's an awful lot of... I don't see this many salt trucks when it fucking snows. Blocking off Grant Park for the taste. Or something.
Trump, do not send the National Guard to Chicago, gang. Do not, I repeat, do not do it. We are a different breed out here, nigga. We are not Los Angeles. Nigga, we are not Washington, D.C. This is Chicago. Go fight back. I'm telling you, go fight back, gang. Whatever, I don't give a fuck what you talking about. Them young switches, gang. They not going for that, bro. I know a bunch of y'all finna say, oh, it's the National Guard. They can't do anything about it. They must go in Chicago. Do y'all know that it's more bad people than good people, bro? There are over 100,000 gangs in Chicago by the city by itself, gang.
Man, Trump talking about something. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. You about to find out why it's called direct. Goofy ass. We ain't scared of this shit.
Quiet part out loud.
Yo, it's wild. The culture and what's happening in these cities like Chicago is worse than we previously thought. There are people that are online that are basically warning Trump about the National Guard and or the military actually appearing in the city of Chicago. And they think that the young bulls over there or the gangsters and all of that. And I seen this one lady, maybe I'll do a separate review video to it. I seen this one older lady and she was saying that the Crips and the Bloods is coming together in order to, you know, fight against ICE. And I'm not really sure if y'all understand what y'all saying. Number one, you cannot make a threat on the president of the United States of America. I'm not sure where y'all been at and how y'all think that this is going to fly in any shape, capacity, way, or form. But that is not the wave, bro. You don't want to even be online feeling comfortable, even if it's not a direct threat, an indirect threat, anything that can be taken as a threat. That's not what you want to do. Y'all really don't understand that they're trying to prevent you from killing yourselves. You know, where's Black Lives Matters when you need it? Where's Al Sharpton? Where's all of the D.L. Hugleys and the Steve Harveys and all of the people that got a paycheck, the Roland Martins? Where are all of these people that were heavy on the Kamala Harris train and they wanted the federal government and people and white people to acknowledge the people in Chicago? I'm not sure if they just wanted affirmation or if they actually wanted something done. It sounds like they just want money. And that's usually what it comes down to. Politicians have monetized crime. And it's funny because they find money to do a lot of things like rolling out the salt trucks and placing them along the streets, which y'all don't really realize this, but most of Chicago, especially downtown's streets, are actually sold off. So Chicago has to rent their streets from a private investor, overseas investor, even to be able to do certain things like parking trucks and having parades and blocking off streets and the parking meters. Any revenue lost has to go directly over there. So, I'm not even really sure if y'all understand the politics of this whole thing, how taxpayers are being finessed into playing the victim role so that Chicago's leaders and legislators can continue to profit and stay in power while at the same time simultaneously running the city into bankruptcy. And so, I would be disgusted if I were you guys. But as usual, you have people who you have to drag to the finish line and actually save their lives that are protesting and warning the federal government and warning the president of the United States of America that he does not want to deploy. It's funny because y'all went in the house for the pandemic. Y'all went in the house and y'all didn't protest a lot of things. Y'all never got outside and protested when it came to illegal migrants that were invading your cities and taking over your neighborhoods, and all of the money that the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois was deploying in order to make sure that they were comfortable when they were sleeping inside of the police stations. But y'all got smoke for the president who wants to stop crime inside of y'all communities because it's profitable for you. That is the only logical reason as to why somebody would do something like this.
About Chicago, there are people who, like myself, were born and raised in the city of Chicago. Is it dangerous here? Yes, it's dangerous here. Are we generally desensitized to the amount of violence that goes on here? To some extent, yes. However, Chicago is one of them cities that what you live by is what you die by. Good, bad, or indifferent. What you win by is what you lose by. Sometimes when things happen in the city of Chicago, it's not a coincidence and it's not a shock to us, because if you be outside doing bullshit, bullshit's gonna find you.
It's funny. I wonder how the babies that catch the stray bullets, or the college students, when I was reporting on it last year and they were getting carjacked and robbed and the people was getting ran up on, and the people and the business owners in the plazas whose stores continue to get broken into. I wonder if they advocated for that, or if they was involved in something that would warrant that type of behavior.
Because you be outside doing bullshit. In all my years of being a Chicago native, there are a lot of things I've never dealt with because I don't be outside entertaining certain shit. I also have a really good spidey senses. I know when to leave. I don't always need to prove a point to a stranger. There are some common sense things that were put into my head that have kept me alive. And you got it, big dog, is one of them. Some people have a hard time and a hard life in Chicago because they go outside, they do bullshit, they get involved with people who do bullshit, they be attached to things that have brought them nothing but bullshit, not even no money and bullshit.
So it seems that Mayor Brandon of Chicago and I think Governor Pritzker, we know why now they don't want Donald Jatavius, however, they done gave him a middle name, okay? They don't want him to bring the National Guard in, okay? Chicago, the leaders keep saying, we don't want Donald Trump here. We don't want the National Guard here. I find it actually ironic because when y'all had the Democratic National Convention, you called in the National Guard. You wanted them to protect you during your convention, but not regular Chicago people. Okay. The reason is because if they allow Donald Jatavius, I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been watching this other girl, and she done gave him a whole name, and I love it. They don't want Donald Trump to come in there with the National Guard because if they clean up the crime, Chicago will lose $800 million in federal funding for crime programs. That's why they don't want Donald Trump there. It's all about the money. All you got to do is follow the money.
It's 100% true. I've been talking about it online, and they're trying to use the money in order to plug the budget deficit and the holes. And that's why they're trying to monetize crime. It's one big system. It's a racket. And black people are falling for it. These liberal protesters are falling for it that don't even live in Chicago. Illinois, they not even playing no games as far as trying to make sure that they plug that budget deficit. And so they're dependent on Donald Trump. And so instead of actually cleaning up crime and balancing the budget like they're supposed to, they begging the federal government for money and trying to act like it's these community programs, and they juking the stats in order to get to the money. Okay. It's one big racket, bro. And it's not fair to the black people in the community members and the people that live, work, and play and have to deal with this nonsense on a regular basis. It's so messed up, bro.
Money. I say this about everybody. Follow the money. The money is going to lead you to the reasons why. They do not care about nobody in Chicago. They care about themselves, okay? They only care about protecting themselves because the people that's dying ain't dying on their street, okay? Ain't dying in their neighborhoods. They dying in black neighborhoods. Black people are dying. Black babies. Black women. People are losing their kids, their nieces, their nephews, their aunts and uncles. You know what I'm saying? All because Chicago's leaders want to keep $800 million from the federal government. Did y'all know that?
People got to wake up. Y'all got to wake up. Y'all got to wake up and get off of the Democrat plantation. It's going to absolutely ruin your life. And it's ruining your kids' lives, and it's ruining your community, and it's ruining everything that you ever touch. But, you know, it would behoove you to do what you're supposed to do.
Right. And I want to get into, I want to show another side of that too. And here is Chicago flips red. And this is really about, you know, people in, I know they're going to say, oh, it's just one side of people or whatever. But these are actually people that are going to meetings, go out into Chicago streets and actually see the crime going on. I don't know if exactly the National Guard is the answer. I know Chicago can be is a dangerous place in certain areas, but it is also, just like Minneapolis, it can be a wonderful area. It can be beautiful. It can be, but there is, you know, parts of it ugly. There is parts of it that are bad, just like in Minneapolis. So I want to show a part of Chicago Flips Red. And Danny, I think her name is Danny C.
Walters, a Chicago resident and the vice president of Chicago Flips Red. Danielle, welcome back to you. Good to have you here. So, I mean, how badly does the city of Chicago, I should say, need the help of the federal government right now?
Well, we need the help. The Democratic Party is the real party of the dictatorship and censorship. Just a while ago, we were just down at City Hall at the meeting for public safety. They have a public safety meeting. And we were down there early this morning. They did not allow us to come up, and they packed the chambers with liberal students. And what's going on is you have only 10 public comments speaking. And so they knew that if they gave us a chance, we wanted to demand to know what they were going to do to keep our streets safe, because we just had that 58 shootings. So they packed the chambers up. They didn't allow us to speak. And then when an 80-year-old citizen, American citizen, Chicago citizen, started screaming out, "This is why we need you, President Trump. This is what they do. They violate our constitutional right. We have no help here." He was screaming out. And Brian Hopkins, the second Ward alderman, demanded that they kick this 80-year-old man out, that they throw him out. Now, that was the same alderman that allowed the illegal alien shelter to operate in the inner cities. And that's why businesses left downtown. That's why residents moved out. And he did not do anything. He did not order those illegal aliens to get put out. But yet they tried to throw an 80-year-old man out. And only reason why they didn't, because I told them I would go on Fox, I would show this video, and I would show you all throwing the 80-year-old citizen out, because he's trying to voice his opinion about how detriment and how unsafe our communities are. So we need help, because not only are we being retaliated against, we are being censored. These are your real dictators. These are the people who do not follow the Constitution. The Democratic Party is evil, and they hate the American citizens.
Danielle, this is President Trump. He was in the Oval Office earlier with the Polish president talking about the crime in Chicago, saying how hard it was for him to even speak of what is happening there. Listen.
I want to go into Chicago, and I have this incompetent governor that doesn't want us. Do you know that this weekend 72 people were shot in Chicago? I'm embarrassed to say it in front of the president of Poland. 11 people were killed. 72 people were shot. Last week, 7 people were killed.
So how can he and the governor of Illinois be on such different pages here? This is Pritzker in a post on X earlier today. As a governor who cares about the well-being of my people, he writes, I can't live in a fantasy land where I pretend Trump is not tearing this country apart for personal greed and power. How can he sit there in that city, in that state, and say that the crime that the residents are experiencing, Danielle, is a fantasy? Here's more residents when asked whether they're open to the National Guard coming in. Here's what they're saying. Listen.
I think that it'll do justice, for the city. I think putting some structure in place will definitely, help prevent those things.
So I don't see the point. It's a huge waste.
We need to do something. So, yeah, I mean, I'm open. I'm not necessarily thinking it'll be a bad thing.
So something has to happen. One thinks it may be a waste. The other says we definitely need justice for this city. Danielle, what are you hearing firsthand from residents there?
This is what most of the residents want. This is what everybody wants. How can this governor even make that statement? The president is doing his job as the president of the United States of America. He sworn the oath to keep America safe. And we see that Governor Pritzker has failed his. He was sworn in to protect the citizens of Illinois, and he has failed to do that. So for him to say that our president, who is upholding his oath to the American citizen, for him to say that about him, you know what, these people are disgusting, and I just have no words.
This is one of the Democrat reps from Illinois on deploying the National Guard and why this rep is against it. Earlier, listen.
Deploying the National Guard in Chicago will not make the city safer. It fuels Trump's violent attacks on our communities and sends people back into the shadows. If he's serious about reducing crime, he would stop weaponizing the military.
Okay, so there is a belief by some of these Democrats, final thought to you, Danielle, that not only will it not do nothing, it's a waste, some of them say, but it won't make the city safer. I'll get a final thought from you on where you see this going next.
Well, Chuy Garcia, he don't even live in Chicago. And when I was on Capitol Hill testifying about how dangerous it was in our community with the 70,000 illegal aliens that majority of them are placed in our communities. He didn't ask me a question. He didn't want to know what was going on with the citizens of Chicago. And I was right there on Capitol Hill, and he didn't even look my way. And we want to also talk about Byron Central Lopez, another alderman who just did a press conference. Now he's saying that he the one who said F ICE and abolish ICE. Now, he's the same alderman that has gates on his window and gates on his doors at his office. So if Chicago is so safe, let these people live the way they want us to live, because at this point, it's just a circus.
Got it. Danielle, well, we're thinking of the city, and we know it's going through a lot, has been through a lot, and President Trump wants to step in and help. We'll see where it goes. Appreciate your time today, Danielle.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give my side of it, right? With Trump going into, past DC, places like Chicago, and sending the National Guard, I really think you are seeing in real time. Now, people start really fighting back. You're going to see, in my eyes, I believe, like Civil War type behavior. This is why I see it heading, because people will stand up and fight back. And that's why I see a lot of people aren't talking about. I didn't really want to give an opinion about this, but I am going to talk about it because it seems to be a hot topic right now. And I want to give my opinion on it because at the end of the day, I do think it's ironic that it was a Ukrainian national and not an American white woman, and basic standards. Only in racial construct America she was white, but she really was Ukrainian. Now I want to get into this because I've seen JD Vance come out and say shit about, he's trying to compare it to like Daniel Penny and what happened, right? I don't see it as like it was a racial kind of thing. I don't see it as a black and white because he probably didn't even know the girl was white or Ukrainian or whatever. He just saw a woman. But I want to get into it because here is something from Tim Pool, I think his name is. I don't follow the guy or whatever. So Tim Cast or whatever. But he does a little piece on this and I want to show it. So
new audio has just been released, reportedly of the sister of Irina Zarutska's murder and the murderer himself, who tries blaming the material used in my body, saying it made him do it. And his sister says, so she just got stabbed. It's like, yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Now I'm seeing some people say he's going for an insanity defense. There isn't really such a thing as an insanity defense. I know it differs between jurisdiction, but you plead insanity here, you get life in prison. And maybe that is the play. He wants to avoid the death penalty. Now there's some reporting, I have not been able to verify, that the DOJ is now pursuing hate crime charges after he was caught on camera saying, I got that white girl. It is kind of hard to hear, but it appears that's what he said. And it's a miserable and brutal story. The full video has been released showing this brutal murder. And there are questions about why people did not help. And there are some brutal stories that I've read from people who say it's particularly common. Now a debate, a conversation about interracial violence is exploding across the internet. And boy, oh boy, is the corporate press angry that anyone would dare bring up crime stats from the FBI and the Bureau of Justice Statistics National Crime Victimization Survey. Matt Walsh had a viral clip from it the other day. I brought up the 2022 numbers. And according to census data confirmed by ChatGPT and Grok, I know they're just AIs, but we pulled the data from NCVS. A young black male is 26 times more likely. In fact, actually, it may be more than this, maybe 52. But black on white crime, there is a 26 times higher chance that a black person will murder a white person than a white person will murder a black person. Now, I think it'd be bad if we as a country judged people based on the color of their skin. Of course, we judge people as individuals. The problem is, and the reason this is being brought up, is because for 10 plus years longer, the media would lie, call you a racist. Big tech companies would ban you if you dared mention this, while telling you at the same time it was white supremacy. That was the problem. I think racism in general is bad and a problem. And I think it's important to point out that there are black people who are racist and commit murders. And that is not to state that all black people anywhere or anything like that. That is not to say when I say there are white supremacists who kill people that all white people anywhere, or Asians for that matter. But when the media came out following the George Floyd incident and told us without a shred of evidence that it was white supremacy and racist cops, every article everywhere, that's the narrative. And you still hear this from random normies, celebrities, and people who don't pay attention. Turns out the narrative actually is the other way around. It seems that there are black supremacists and black racists who have been killing white people to large numbers. And that is not to disparage an entire race. It's to point out racism does exist. But they lied to us about it the whole time. Here's the audio. I'm going to play it for you right now, about a minute long. Listen to this.
So you said something in your body did what?
Nah, the material, put it like this, the material used in my body to stab the lady.
And so she just got stabbed.
Yeah. You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they got to investigate the material in my body exposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they got to investigate.
It's funny because she's from the Ukraine. She's from Russia, and
She's
they
not
got a
from
war.
Russia.
They had a war going on against the United States. So I'm just trying to understand, out of all people, why her?
It ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened.
They
lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, whoever was working the material, they lashed out on her.
And it's absolutely psychotic. Here's the New York Times. A gruesome murder in North Carolina ignites a firestorm on the right. It's just, I'm sick of it. You're all sick of it. And this is why this story is getting so much traction. And it's why people are demanding change. And the media can keep playing this stupid game. The corporate press can keep playing this stupid game. And I don't care. We've crushed them. We've routed them. And we are telling them right now, you do not get to lie to us anymore. Okay? I think it's fair to say that when you even have Nick Fuentes, of all people, accused of everything in the book, saying that he's not saying every individual black person is bad or anything like that. He's just pointing out high crime areas, et cetera, et cetera. These clips are going viral. When even Nick Fuentes is saying, I'm not gonna judge some random individual guy for being black. We don't do that. This is the point of being what you would call race neutral. We don't, as a nation, have different laws based on race. We get rid of that. We say, no, we're not playing the game. Black, white, Asian, Latino, whatever it may be, okay, we're going to treat you the same way under the law. That being said, when you are told by the media and by liberals and leftists for decades that there's a white supremacy problem, and they breed this ideological cohort that votes based on this psychotic idea that white people are going around massacring innocent black people, you are going to create the racial tension, animosity that you claim already exists. Now, what are we seeing? I think it's fair to say once again that even if Nick Fuentes is saying something to this degree, and I'm not trying to impugn the honor or integrity of Fuentes. I am not trying to disparage him or accuse him of believing certain things. I'm saying the media has accused him of so much. So even he's saying, like, I'm not blaming an individual black guy, right? Conservatives, people on the right, the anti-woke, the anti-DEI, this crowd is outright saying, we are not here to judge individuals on the basis of race. But y'all have lied to us for so long. Enough. How do we actually deal with this problem? And so long as the media covers it up and lies about it, you are going to make people angry, distrustful, and yes, racist. Because you know what ends up happening? Without a real conversation as to what causes this and why these numbers exist, regular people are just going to outright say black. They're not going to say poverty. They're not going to say culture. They're not going to say gangs. They're not going to say, disrespect. They're literally going to be like black. That's the point. When you don't have a conversation about what causes things like this, why there are so many races, I'll put it like this. I'm going to put it like this. It is stupid to argue, in my opinion, principally, that there is a genetic issue with one race of people. I think that's stupid. And I made the argument the other day. You're walking down the street and there's a black man wearing a suit carrying a briefcase. And on the right side, there's a guy who's scratching and shaking and looking around all crazy with a scraggly beard. You know which side of the road you want to walk on. It's not an issue of race. It's an issue of, do you feel safe around these individuals? The point I'm saying is that when people are lied to by the media over and over again, but then they keep hearing from friends, from family, they were robbed and the person was black. And I'm not saying every single time, calm down, far left. I'm saying when they hear enough of these stories, they say it must be race. Now, if we had a real conversation about it, we could talk about gang culture. We could talk about the culture in general in these areas where largely black young men are either in gangs or are being raised in a criminal culture, being told to go hard, and you get crime against white people. Or more importantly, when you have DEI efforts for 10 years telling these young black men that white people are evil, when you have people like Farrakhan When you have people like Jesse Jackson, when you have a culture built around telling the black community that white people are evil, don't be surprised when you have a disproportionate amount of black on white violence. So my argument is, I don't care. Black, white, left, right, up, down, gay, straight, male, female, Islam, Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Confucius, Taoist, whatever. I'm walking down the street. I make my determinations. Live your life. You shouldn't be held to a different standard of the law based on these characteristics. However, when they come out and they claim it's opposite day, that white people are going around just mass murder, it's just insane. Now, don't get me wrong. In 2022, 96,000 white on black instances of violence. It's bad. Not a good thing. The hard thing to understand, I should say that the important thing to understand, and what's difficult with this, is that we don't actually know if it was white or Hispanic. They say white Hispanic and non-white Hispanic, they lump it all together. And so they just pick and choose how to drive these stats. But I'll put it like this. I don't care. Either way, that's a bad thing. But you had 540,000 black on white. That's 462% higher. That's bad. That's bad. Interracial violence should happen. Now, I know all the libs come out and they say, yes, but white on white and black on black are higher than both by the millions. Right. Yeah, sure. My point is, violence is all bad. Nobody should be killing each other. White people kill white people more than anyone else, and black people kill black people more than anybody else. It's typically intraracial. That's bad too. We want it all to stop. But my point is, they push this lie, this narrative about white supremacy that is just not true. White people tend to be, and this is a fact, not racist. And that is why forever, it's like 7 or 8 years, we've had the data showing white liberals have an out-group preference. The only demographic. Black Americans slightly favor being around black people. Asian Americans slightly favor being around Asian. That's probably true for people in Asian countries too, and African nations. Latinos. White conservatives slightly favor being around white conservatives. Only slightly. Only slightly. White liberals disfavor being around white people. That is what they've created. Now, this dude's getting federal charges, but the charge is committing an act of violence against someone on mass transport. It is charged with causing death on a mass transport system. So this is a law that came into effect after 9/11, and the argument is it exists at the federal level because this guy is making people terrified to use the train, to use mass transit that is federally funded and protected. Now, we do have this report from Mario Nawfal. DOJ files hate crime charges in Charlotte stabbing. They say this happens just hours after CCTV footage of the attack was released, where he says, "I got that white girl." Brown already faces first-degree murder and federal mass transit homicide charges. These new accounts raise the stakes even higher. I cannot confirm this. It says AP News and official RN Intel. Now, what I will say is one of the most annoying mornings ever, in that there's a ton of big breaking news, and it seems like all journalists are off for the day. And you know what? Well, whatever. It's not always a bad thing, right? So I typically like to get confirmation on these reports before putting it out. Mario Nawfal tends to do a pretty good job, so I'm not trying to argue that he is incorrect. But I've not been able to verify through any channels that there are hate crime charges on this guy. I've seen nothing from the AP. Nothing is popping up on the AP's website confirming any of this. So take it all with a grain of salt. We will see. I will just stress this as it pertains to this audio. I've seen some people argue he's going for an insanity defense. Now, I can't speak for the entirety of the country, but I can tell you at least in the United States, in Illinois, insanity is a defense where you argue you don't know the difference between right and wrong. That is typically what an insanity defense is. You can't argue that the material took over your body, so you committed a murder, because that's just not how insanity defense is. At least, again, in Illinois, I don't know, maybe different other places. If you don't know the difference between right and wrong, then you lack the, I'm not a lawyer, but what was it, the mens rea? The state of mind by which you knew you were committing a crime. Now, a lot of people don't know this. You don't get off. They don't go, well, he's insane. Let him go. Some people seem to think that You will be sent to a medical facility for a few months to get treated, and then you're free to go. No, this is a life sentence. If you are found guilty by reason of insanity, they just lock you up forever. There's no getting out. However, if he's trying to avoid the death penalty, which Trump has called for, well, then maybe that's the play he's trying to make. He killed her because he's a racist, and we have a serious black supremacist, black nationalist, and black racist problem in this country. And he doesn't want to get the death penalty. So he's now trying to claim that his body was taken over. It's laughably absurd. I want to see, I'm glad this conversation is happening. And it's fascinating.
It doesn't need to happen in my eyes. But I do want to get into a little bit of, so Big Atreus, I think that's how you say his last name, or the name, whatever, is the irony of all this is that she wasn't even an American, but rather a refugee from Ukraine. Please tell me you guys are following the irony here. Because to me, it is kind of funny, right? Because they're comparing it to, again, Daniel Penny. You know, and there was multiple people in there. I'm not saying that it's right. She didn't deserve to die. That is my, you know, but it's crazy as hell to me of like the same kind of comparisons to like a Daniel Penny situation or George Floyd. And we really, really, really need to look at this and be honest about it and say that our world is just fucked up. And a lot of people, honestly, probably don't know the difference between right and wrong because we have so many politicians, lawmakers who are making laws, but they can't even figure out what is right and what is wrong. So I get it to a degree because you can't expect people to be better when their own lawmakers or their own politicians aren't even anywhere kind of better. So, you know, a lot of people want to throw rocks and glass houses, but I honestly think that we can't expect better from our lawmakers when they basically do the same thing. They're not out here killing people. Some have, like Cynthia Martin, whatever her name is. You know, some have gotten into car accidents, Julie Blaha, with white claws. And so do we really exactly hold people to a higher standard? Or are we just all the way around and we don't expect anything out of anybody? So with that being said, man, I'm going to get up out of here. Today is Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m., same time, same place. And I'm going to get up out of here with Belly Gang Cushington, Frandu Remix, and I don't know how to say her last name, Ken Nisi or whatever. So here you go. I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place.
Hoes don't deserve no mercy. They ain't give me no mercy when they was fucking my nigga behind my back. So I'm not showing no mercy.
Like your friend do. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend. Bounce that ass just like your friend. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend. Bounce that ass just like your friend. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend taught you. Throw it. Bounce that ass just like your friend taught you. Throw it. Bounce that ass just like your friend do. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend do. Bitch, hey, bounce that ass just like your friend. Tell your mama to watch them motherfucking kids, bitch. I'm a real player, ain't fucking on that but a 10, bitch. I'm a real trapper, I mix the cocoa with the blend, bitch. I'm in the bowl, I mix it all up with the sauce. I might buy a bitch a little bag, I mix it all up with the cost. Her little friend asked a girl how it feel to be fucking on the boss. She say, oh no, girl, we be fucking on and off. Bounce that ass just like your friend do. I'ma throw this paper. Bitch, I show you what a 10 do. I'ma invite your friend, bitch, I told you she could 10 to. Damn, bitch, that do that little shit that your best friend do. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend. Bounce that ass just like your friend. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend. Bounce that ass just like your friend. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend taught you. Bounce that ass just like your friend taught you. Bounce that ass just like your friend do. Bitch, bounce that ass just like your friend do.
He told her, bounce that ass just like your friend do. Throw it. I'm in the club with all my bitches, this shit overly loaded. All these rats on me, I can't even hold them. This bitch keep trying to press me by the nigga, I don't even know him. Geeked up, looking for a eater. Applying pressure, I can't ease up. I dropped the 10.